All right, we're at
All
Home
right,
Depot.
so this is
Got
how
all the
you build a
wood
cyc wall from scratch.
for the
First, you gotta go to
platform.
Home Depot. You need some wood, obviously, and you need some hardboard. You can do MLM, but hardboard works. These 2x4s are about 12 feet long, and I have a couple of 16-foot long ones as well. The dimensions for my cyc wall is 16 by 11, so I got to cut it down to size. Then I'm just throwing it on the floor just so I could understand, what that bottom part is going to be like. If you already have a level floor, you probably don't need this step, and it's going to be a little bit easier. But me specifically, I wanted to make sure that it was completely level, so I made a platform specifically. On the top left, you see exposed insulation, and you also see a light, so I'm going to have to remove that light. And the reason why there's exposed insulation is because I had an outlet there, and my Wi-Fi cable line was there too, so we had to move it. Right now, we're putting subfloor down, and then we're putting the hardboard on top of that. Use a nail gun, nail it directly to the boards that we just drilled into the concrete. And then from there, you could just make sure the nails are flush and then put the hardboard on top of that. After that, we're going to get some templates because we want the curves to be reinforced. So I'm going to cut some extra plywood. It's not really necessarily plywood, but just some extra wood that I had laying around just so I could get the template of the curve that I want the other hardboard pieces to be laying on. And then I'm going to get some extra planks of wood that I had in order to drill into the wall and into the floor. And then I will use the template pieces to nail to those blocks so that those don't move too. From there, once I verify the angles, I'm going to cut out the rest of the curved pieces in actual plywood. I'm going to write scriptures on them because I want my infrastructure to be situated from a spiritual standpoint as well. And then I'm just screwing those blocks of wood into the wall and into the floor. And then I'm nailing the template pieces, well, not template pieces, at this point, just the angle pieces into those blocks so that it could substantiate the hardwood. I do about 3 per hardwood. The hardwood dimensions is 4x8. So we do that all on the floor, and then we do that on the ceiling as well. Here, I'm taking out that light, and then I'm just essentially covering it up because I want to make sure that there's no electrical wires or anything like that that hangs out into the hardwood or through the plaster. Okay, so after that, you gotta kind of clear everything up. I'm sweeping, making sure that everything is swept, and from here, I'm kind of just making sure I understand where I'm going to be able to drill and nail the hardwood pieces into the said guides. So I want to make sure that they're reinforced and nailed into the wall and into the guides so that it's super strong, super sturdy. This is one of the most important parts of the cyc or infinity wall, so you want to make sure that it doesn't move unintentionally if somebody bumps into it or just over time. So what I'm doing right now is I'm nailing everything flat into it, and then I'm also nailing the wood directly into the wall as well to reinforce it. Next, it's more about just making sure that the hardwood pieces that you have are dimensionally correct. So I get a leveler and make sure that it's level and flat. Obviously, you want to make sure it's as level as possible, even though it's not the most important thing in the world, because when you go over it with plaster, the effect is to make it seem like it's all one wall anyway. You just want to save yourself a lot of work if you just level it. So right here, I'm just doing just some guiding just so I can figure out, okay, what is it going to look like if I put it here? What is it going to look like if I put it there? And then from there, I start to nail it into its permanent place. So once that is situated, I then have some more hardwood because I'm trying to figure out how I could get that corner down. When you decide that you want to do it on the ceiling, if you decide you want to do it on the ceiling, I know a lot of people don't do that. You're going to need 2 people, or you're going to need a sheetrock lift in order to put it in position. It's easier to just do it with 2 people. get it up there, nail it, and essentially do what you did on the bottom. I use those 2 wood pieces to act as frame guides because you want to make sure the angle is consistent. The best way to kind of figure out what the angle is to figure out where you want the top part of the hardwood to go versus the wall, and then the bottom part of the hardwood to go versus the floor. And then when you do it on a ceiling, you want the top part versus the ceiling, and then the bottom versus the wall. You could just draw a straight line, and then when you put it up there, you can actually see the angle. So the angle that you have is completely up to you. You can have it come out a little bit more or less. It's totally your call. I like that smooth finish where it just becomes endless. So I wanted it to be a more gradual angle as opposed to a super sharp one. So that's why you see it coming out about 2 feet from the floor and from the ceiling, and about 36 inches on the wall. From there, I have corners. So I have to make sure I do another template and another guide so that it reinforces that part of the wall, because it's not exactly the same angle when it comes to the floor and the ceiling. And the way I'm able to kind of figure out the angle is I put the hardwood where I want it, and then I just get some wood that I'm going to cut for the template piece, and I just use the marker and use the wood, the hardboard as a guide. So I just use the marker and I use the hardboard as a guide. I draw on the wood as the curved angle, and then from there it's just straight lines because I know it's going to be in the corner of the wall. So I'll cut that out, use the same method as I used before with the square blocks, and then I'll nail it there. And then from there, it's just cutting the hardboard in the right sections so that it could actually go into the wall in the right way, and then use that curve as a guide so that it remains consistent. From there, you nail it up just like everything else. And then as you can see, what I did was I put hardwood on top of hardwood so that it could be reinforced by the weight of the other hardwood. So it's pretty solid back there. If you actually see this position, you'll see that there's certain gaps between the hardwood, and we're gonna go into that now in order to get that super good effect. But here it is now. Before we add any plaster, you can actually see how the light is bouncing off and getting the right curve or whatever the case may be. So you're pretty much good there. But now you want to make sure that you fill in those gaps and fill in the areas in which it's not reflecting the light. So the way you're going to do that is just get some normal compound and go over it. Being that I had to use the wood in order to build the platform, I just chopped it down to make it flat. I swept up, cleaned everything out, and then I got the compound, normal drywall compound that I put on the hardwood between each gap, between themselves, and then between each gap on the wall as well. From there, you're just gonna have to let it dry. This process obviously is gonna take longer, but as you can see, those gaps are kind of filled in, just in every area. Once it dries, you then have to go over it again if you did leave a lot of gaps, which I definitely did. But if you go over it, you want to make sure that you sand it first. So I went and sanded it. I had an electric sander. Once I sanded it, I went over it again with more compound so that those gaps were filled. This is a little bit more tedious, especially if you're not familiar with doing anything when it comes to, compound and sheetrock work, but it's not that crazy. Then when it dries, you sand it again and you put your first coat of paint. What I used was premium Ghetto flat white paint. It's the stock paint. It's a little bit more expensive. It's from Home Depot, about $170 a bucket in 2026 June. And then I painted. From there, I sanded again, filled in some more spots with compound, let it dry, and then I got the rest of the paint back onto the wall. As you see, when it dries, there's some light spots because the hardboard is so dark that you're able to see through it. But from there, you just let it dry and put another coat on, and you keep doing that until you're able to get the desired effect. This is after one of the last coats. I did one more coat on top of this one, but as you can see, that effect is starting to look great. I let this one dry, and then I went over it again with another coat and a little bit more compound, and then you get this. So Now I have a cyc wall, and you do too if you follow the steps. It's Royce Network Studio. Big Ben, stay tuned.